Ladies and gentlemen, let's get real. Chasing, overthinking, and obsessing over someone never works. The harder you hold on, the more they pull away. Why? Because attachment creates pressure and pressure kills attraction. But here's the game changer. When you let go, everything shifts. You stop radiating neediness, and instead, you show confidence, self-respect, and independence. 3 things that are insanely attractive. In this talk, we're diving into the psychology behind why detachment is so powerful, why it makes them chase you, and most importantly, how to apply it to regain your power in relationships and life. When you hold on too tightly to someone, whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or even an opportunity, you create pressure. And pressure pushes people away. This isn't just some relationship cliche. It's rooted in psychology. Humans are wired to seek freedom, autonomy, and control over their own decisions. The moment someone feels like they're being chased, suffocated, or emotionally trapped, their natural instinct is to pull away. This is why the harder you try to hold on to someone, the more distant they become. Think about it. When you constantly check your phone, waiting for their text, when you analyze every little thing they say, when you overgive, overexplain, and overcompensate, you're sending a message. I need you to validate me. And that energy is heavy. It feels like pressure. Instead of drawing them closer, it creates an invisible wall between you. No one wants to feel like they're responsible for someone else's happiness. That's a burden, not a connection. Let's put it in practical terms. Imagine you're at a party and someone keeps following you around, laughing too hard at your jokes, agreeing with everything you say, and constantly checking to see if you're still engaged. Even if they're a great person, you'd start to feel a little suffocated, right? Now, compare that to someone who is comfortable in their own skin, enjoying themselves, engaging with others, and simply letting interactions flow naturally. That person is instantly more attractive because they're not trying so hard to control the outcome. The same thing happens in relationships. When you're overly attached, you start micromanaging the connection. You try to predict what they're thinking. You overanalyze their responses. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said something wrong. This isn't love. It's anxiety in disguise. And anxiety is contagious. If you're constantly worried about whether they'll stay or go, that energy transfers to them. Instead of feeling drawn to you, they feel overwhelmed by the responsibility of managing your emotions. On the flip side, when you detach, you remove that pressure. You stop trying to control how they feel about you. You stop seeking their validation to feel secure. You stop making them the center of your emotional world. And guess what? That shift changes everything. When someone senses that you're completely fine with or without them, it triggers curiosity. They start wondering why you're not chasing, why you're not overinvesting, why you seem so sure of yourself. And that's when the dynamic flips. Suddenly, they're the ones thinking about you. They're the ones analyzing your actions. They're the ones feeling the pull to reconnect. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop attaching your self-worth to someone else's actions. It means you trust that if the connection is meant to be, it will flow naturally, without force, without pressure, without overeffort. It means you shift your focus back to yourself, your goals, your happiness, and your energy. And when you do that, people naturally gravitate toward you because they sense something powerful. You're not desperate for their presence. You are simply present in your own life. Confidence is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. It's not just about how you look, how you speak, or how you carry yourself. It's about the energy you bring into a room. People can sense confidence before you even say a word. And the opposite is also true. Desperation, insecurity, and neediness are just as easy to pick up on, and they instantly push people away. The problem is when you're emotionally attached to someone, especially in a romantic relationship, it's easy to fall into patterns of overinvesting, over-explaining, and over-proving your worth. The more you try to convince someone of your value, the less attractive you become. When you seek external validation, you're unknowingly sending the message that you don't believe you are enough on your own. You put someone else on a pedestal, making their approval your priority. And in doing so, you strip yourself of your personal power. The moment you start acting like you need someone's attention or affection to feel complete, you shift the dynamic of the relationship. Instead of being seen as an equal, you're perceived as someone who's dependent on their presence to feel worthy. That's not a position of strength, and deep down, both you and the other person feel it. Confidence, on the other hand, operates on a completely different frequency. When you are secure in yourself, you don't need to chase, force, or prove anything. You know your worth, and that alone changes how people interact with you. Confidence creates space. It allows you to be present without attachment. It allows you to express yourself without overthinking. It allows you to enjoy the connection rather than anxiously trying to control the outcome. That ease and self-assurance are magnetic because they communicate one undeniable truth. You are not seeking validation. You already have it from within. Think about the people who naturally command attention when they walk into a room. They're not necessarily the loudest, the most physically attractive, or the ones trying the hardest. They are the ones who are comfortable in their own skin. They aren't worried about what others think, and they don't seek approval to feel good about themselves. That energy is powerful. It makes people lean in rather than pull away. It creates intrigue rather than pressure. And in relationships, that dynamic is everything. When you stop caring about how someone perceives you, when you stop overthinking every interaction, when you stop trying to be chosen, you naturally shift into a place of power. That shift is felt by the other person, and it changes how they respond to you. They start to notice your absence when you're not around. They start to wonder why you're not chasing. They start to feel drawn to your energy because you've created space for them to come to you rather than pushing them away with neediness. Desperation is repelling because it places the focus on lack of attention, lack of security, lack of control. It creates a dynamic where the other person feels like they have to constantly reassure you, which is emotionally exhausting. No one wants to feel like they are responsible for someone else's self-worth. Confidence, however, creates attraction because it places the focus on abundance, the abundance of self-respect, self-trust, and self-sufficiency. It communicates that you are whole on your own. And when someone recognizes that you don't need them but choose to engage with them anyway, the entire relationship dynamic shifts in your favor. Human nature is wired in a way that makes us crave what feels slightly out of reach. This isn't about playing games or manipulating people. It's about understanding basic psychology. When something is too available, too predictable, or too easy to obtain, we subconsciously assign it less value. The moment you start chasing, over-explaining, or trying too hard to prove your worth, you remove the element of intrigue, and without that, attraction fades. People want what they feel they have to earn. This is why luxury brands don't flood the market with unlimited supply, why exclusive events require invitations, and why people naturally gravitate toward those who carry themselves with self-respect and confidence. Scarcity creates desire. When you make yourself too available, constantly checking in, overanalyzing their every move, or revolving your energy around their presence, you eliminate the feeling of mystery. That mystery is what keeps attraction alive. Think about it. When was the last time you truly valued something that was handed to you without effort? There's a reason why people take better care of things they work hard for. Relationships are no different. When you place yourself in the position of the pursuer, you disrupt the natural balance of attraction. It's not that you should withhold love or be distant just to create an effect. It's about recognizing that your energy is valuable. And the more you give it away without discernment, the less others feel the need to invest in you. The moment you stop over-investing and start focusing on yourself, everything shifts. When you pull back, not out of spite or manipulation, but out of self-respect, the person on the other end feels it. They start wondering why your attention isn't fixated on them. They start noticing the space you've created, and that space makes them want to come closer. This isn't because they suddenly appreciate you more. It's because human nature is wired to seek what isn't instantly guaranteed. This is why the energy of detachment is so powerful. When you stop putting someone on a pedestal and instead shift your focus back onto your own life, passions, and personal growth, you become naturally magnetic. People want to be around those who have a sense of purpose outside of a relationship. They want to chase someone who isn't begging for their attention. The irony is that the less you try to control how someone feels about you, the more likely they are to feel drawn to you. The mistake so many people make is thinking that if they stop trying, they'll lose the connection. But the truth is, trying too hard is what often kills attraction in the first place. You don't have to force closeness. You don't have to convince anyone of your value. You simply have to be confident enough to let things unfold naturally, knowing that what is truly meant for you will never require you to compromise your self-worth. When you let go of the need to be chosen, you instantly become more desirable. It's not about being cold, distant, or indifferent. It's about knowing that your presence alone is enough. And when someone recognizes that they have to work for a place in your life rather than just expecting it, that's when they start to truly appreciate what you bring to the table. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become indifferent or emotionally unavailable. It means you shift your focus from seeking validation to standing in your own worth. The biggest mistake people make in relationships is tying their self-esteem to how someone else treats them. When you do this, you give away your power. You become emotionally dependent on their actions, their words, and their attention to feel good about yourself. But true confidence, true self-respect comes from knowing that you are enough, whether they stay or walk away. When you cling to someone out of fear, anxiety, or insecurity, you're not showing love. You're showing self-doubt. You're telling yourself, I need them to see me, to choose me, to validate me so I can feel worthy. But the second you attach your happiness to someone else's approval, you set yourself up for disappointment. No one can fill the void of self-worth except you. The moment you realize this, you stop putting pressure on them to complete you. And that shift in energy is powerful. Respecting yourself means recognizing that love should never feel like begging. It should never feel like convincing, chasing, or trying to be enough for someone. If you have to constantly prove your value, it means they don't see it. And if they don't see it, then they are not for you. Love that is real doesn't require force. It flows, it grows, and it is built on mutual respect, not on one person holding on for dear life while the other remains indifferent. When you detach, you remove the pressure. You stop overanalyzing their texts, their responses, their actions. You stop waiting for them to choose you, and instead, you focus on choosing yourself. And here's where the psychology shifts. When someone senses that they are no longer the center of your world, they start paying attention. They notice the absence of your energy. They feel the change. And suddenly they're the ones wondering about you, missing you, and trying to figure out why you're no longer seeking their validation. People value what they have to work for. They respect what they can't easily have. And when you make it clear that you are whole on your own without needing them to complete you, it changes how they see you. It makes them question why they ever took you for granted. But here's the key. You don't detach just to get a reaction. You don't pull away as a strategy to make someone chase you. You do it because you finally understand your worth, and you refuse to settle for anything less than mutual effort. When you operate from self-respect instead of attachment, you show up differently. You communicate differently. You no longer tolerate breadcrumbs or mixed signals. You no longer accept inconsistency or emotional games. Instead, you set a standard that says, I know who I am, and I will not shrink myself just to fit into someone else's life. And when you live from that mindset, the right people gravitate toward you, the wrong ones fade away. And you stop fearing loss because you know that anyone who truly values you will meet you at your level. Energy speaks louder than words. You can say all the right things, but if your energy is off, people will feel it. This is why confidence, self-respect, and detachment are so powerful, because they shift not just your words and actions, but the unspoken signals you send to others. When you are emotionally attached, overinvested, or desperate for validation, Even if you try to hide it, the energy leaks out. It shows in the way you hesitate before sending a text, in the way you anxiously wait for a response, in the way you over-explain yourself or try too hard to be agreeable, and the other person picks up on it, whether consciously or subconsciously. People respond to energy before they respond to words. If you approach someone from a place of fear of losing them, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of not being enough, that fear seeps into every interaction. It makes them feel like they are being put on a pedestal, like they hold all the power. And human nature being what it is, people don't value what is handed to them without effort. They value what they perceive as strong, secure, and self-sufficient. On the other hand, when you are truly detached, not in a way that is cold or distant, but in a way that says, I know my worth and I'm not afraid to walk away if I'm not valued, people sense that too. It shifts the entire dynamic. Instead of trying to prove your value, you simply embody it. Instead of seeking reassurance, you radiate self-assurance. Instead of waiting to be chosen, you choose yourself. And that energy is magnetic. It draws people in because it communicates something powerful. You are not in a place of lack. You are in a place of abundance. This is why people suddenly start chasing when you let go. It's not because of any specific words you say or actions you take. It's because your energy has changed. You are no longer leaning in, waiting for approval. You are standing firm, knowing that the right connections don't require force. The moment you stop trying so hard to keep someone's attention, they feel the space you've created, and that space makes them realize what they stand to lose. This shift isn't just about relationships. It applies to every area of life. Think about job interviews, negotiations, or even social interactions. When you walk into a room feeling uncertain, seeking validation, or trying too hard to impress, people sense it, and it weakens your position. But when you walk in knowing that you are valuable regardless of the outcome, you automatically command more respect. You don't have to over-explain, over-prove, or overcompensate. Your presence alone does the work for you. The key is to become aware of the energy you are projecting. If you feel anxious, desperate, or overly attached, pause and ask yourself why. Where is this coming from? Are you seeking something from someone that you should be giving to yourself? Are you placing your worth in the hands of another person instead of owning it from within? When you shift from needing external validation to fully trusting yourself, everything around you shifts as well. People start responding differently. The ones who took you for granted start noticing your absence. The ones who played games start realizing that they no longer have control. And the ones who truly value you step up because they recognize that you are not someone who settles for anything less than what you deserve. Letting go is one of the hardest things to do, but it is also one of the most powerful. When you let go, you are not giving up and you are not losing. You are shifting your focus back to yourself, your peace, and your purpose. Too often, people hold on because they believe that if they try harder, prove themselves more, or give just a little bit extra, the other person will finally see their worth. But the truth is, the more you try to convince someone of your value, the less they actually see it. People don't appreciate what is always there, what is always available, what is always waiting. They appreciate what they feel they have to earn. The moment you step back, everything changes. The space you create forces the other person to reflect, to feel your absence, and to decide what you truly mean to them. But more importantly, it forces you to realize that you were never meant to chase love, to beg for attention, or to exhaust yourself trying to keep someone interested. Love is not meant to be forced. The right connections don't require you to sacrifice your dignity. When you truly understand this, you stop waiting for people to treat you right, and you start setting the standard for how you allow yourself to be treated. The most powerful thing you can do in any relationship is to show that you are willing to walk away from anything that does not align with your self-worth. Not in an angry, resentful way, but in a way that says, I know my value and I refuse to settle for anything less. That level of confidence is rare, and it is exactly why it is so attractive. When you know you don't need someone to complete you, you stop trying to control the outcome. You stop overthinking every word, every action, every possible scenario. You allow life to unfold naturally, knowing that what is meant for you will stay and what is not will leave. People sense when you are in a place of self-assurance versus a place of attachment. When you let go, you release the pressure. You stop making someone else the center of your happiness, and you take that power back into your own hands. That shift is undeniable. It changes the energy of every interaction. Instead of trying to keep someone interested, you let them decide for themselves. And in doing so, you force them to either step up or step aside. Either way, you win. Letting go is not about playing games or using reverse psychology. It is about understanding that attachment often comes from fear, the fear of loss, the fear of rejection, the fear of being alone. But when you let go, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your fears. You remind yourself that your happiness does not depend on any single person, and you step into the version of yourself that is whole, confident, and unshakable. That version of you is unstoppable. That version of you attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the right kind of love. You do not lose by letting go. You lose by holding on to something that is not meant for you. When you release the need to control, to force, to convince, you open yourself up to something far greater. You allow space for the right things to come into your life. And when you realize this, you stop fearing the outcome because you finally understand that the real power was never in holding on. It was always in knowing when to let go. Letting go is not about giving up. It's about choosing yourself. It's about recognizing that your worth is not determined by someone else's validation, attention, or affection. When you stop chasing, when you release the need to control, you allow life to unfold the way it's meant to. You create space for what is truly meant for you. And in that space, something incredible happens. You become magnetic. You stop fearing loss because you understand that what is real will never require you to beg, force, or convince. The law of detachment isn't about playing games. It's about standing in your power. It's about knowing that love, respect, and effort should flow both ways. And when you finally embrace that, the people who are meant for you will rise to meet you. The ones who aren't will fade away. And instead of seeing that as rejection, you'll see it as redirection. Proof that you were never supposed to shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's life. So let go with confidence. Let go with trust. Walk forward, knowing that your value remains unchanged, regardless of who chooses to see it. Because the right people, the ones who truly appreciate you, will never need to be chased. They will recognize your worth without you having to prove it. And when you embody that truth, not only do you become more powerful, but you also attract the kind of love and respect that was meant for you all along.